Hey all, so we're in season 32 now. This is the first war of the season against Groudon, and as you may be able to tell by this freeze frame here, I had some recording issues again. I had gotten to the point where I didn't have much room left, but because I didn't check that before the start of the season, my first video here only gave me the last 19 seconds of the third fight that I took. Luckily, all three were fights I've taken before or very nearly. The first one was Reed against Tigra on that Aggression Prowess Power Focus 2 node on Path 6. Took that a few times last season. So if you missed that one, or if you're new to the channel, well, first off, welcome. We're glad to have you here. But check out the Season 31 playlist on my channel. I'll go ahead and link that in the description. And it was a very, very simple fight. Reed turns off most of the most dangerous things about Tigra. I believe I had a bit of an issue with the dashback, and she did combo me once, but it took off like 5% of my health, and I'm not kidding. So, very, very safe. The second fight was Killmonger versus MODOK on node 19, the Ebb and Flow knockdown Bubble Shield one that also has Power Focus 1, and I had horrible, horrible input issues. Like, I restarted my iPad yesterday. It might have had something to do with the fact that the memory was starting to get full. So, hopefully that problem has been solved now. But I got hit entirely too much. But it was not because of the matchup. I mean, Power Focus 1 actually makes that easier for Killmonger, because you have to do barely any work at all to push MODOK to his next special 1 from wherever you are. You have almost no chance of pushing him to a special 3, and it's just super easy to have True Strike up the entire time. You don't even have to use Counter Punch that much to get those easy openings because of Power Focus 1. You can always respond to a special. So if anyone from Groudon is listening to this, I would recommend not placing there, because it's just honestly such a gimme, regardless of how poor I personally played it this time. And then the third fight here is this Mysterio on Power Snack. I've taken this before with Reed several times. I think it's a fairly solid placement on Power Snack, because he does mess up the rhythm for a lot of other champions, and even including Reed, which the reason I'm missing health here is not because I got hit. It's actually because, to make sure I didn't lose my debuffs, I did knock him down with a heavy while he was in reflective gas a couple times. As long as you don't do that too often and you're selective with it, you have plenty of health to play with. But it's a good placement. It's just also one that I think Reed completely crushes. This is one of the fights that he's actually better for than somebody like Void or Spider-Man 2099 or Overseer, because he has that suppression debuff and can stack it. Because Power Snack is not the enemy in this fight. Hitting Mysterio and giving him power that way so that he throws more special ones, that's the enemy. And Reed is one of the only champions that actually deals with that. So very, very hard counter. I'll let this play out. As you can see, I tried to step back into a special one, and he actually blocked it. Thankfully, it creates enough distance, and I was paying enough attention that I was able to dex when he tried to punish it. That triggered Power Snack, reversed Power Snack because we were fully ramped at this point, and then I close it out with another special one and a short combo. Very safe fight for Reed. But next up we have what I think is my very first ever in-season war fight with Professor X, and that will come up. Now, the problem is that my Professor X is unduped, which means that he does not naturally gain charges, which would be especially helpful against Miles, because then, if I ever lose the Vigilance, all I have to do is wait for it to come back, and then I don't have to worry about Miles' miss at all. Because this is strike counter, we are going to be worried about miss because we're going to be throwing specials. You can also take this with somebody like Nick or Archangel. Those were not options for me, and I don't think it would have been super easy to get any of our other people with those options over here. We could have sent an awakened Professor X here pretty easily, but that would have required me to do some somewhat sketchy stuff with my team. So I think that this was ultimately the right call. So as you saw, we used the heavy counter to get our vigilance up, and other than that, we've been playing the node, mostly doing 2 or 3 hit combos. And after this, we are now at 100 channeling charges. So our next special is going to send us into mind control. That's good because we're going to be able to do a lot of damage really quickly. We're going to be able to throw a lot of specials. We're not going to worry about strike counter. But it's really important to note that after that, we lose our vigilance because we go back down to 0 charges. It also is helpful to not eat a special to the face. I'm normally very good with Miles Evade. That was not awesome. So as soon as we throw this, and I backed up and let some charges build to so that I could cancel the heavy into the special and gain prowess, that honestly probably wasn't a great idea. Or I at least shouldn't have landed those hits. I should have just backed up and thrown the heavy immediately. And then here's the problem. I forgot that I had not built my vigilance back up. And I tried to hit into him while he had spider camo up, and he smacked me in the face and took me dangerously low, because the single worst thing about Professor X is his tiny, tiny health pool. He has great block proficiency. I could have baited out another heavy and just waited out spider camo and been fine. I took a dumb risk there because I'm just not used to his kit. Very nearly paid for it. Thankfully, I was able to save it. So, scary fight there. Almost blew it in the first war of the season, but managed to save it. So next up, we have Killmonger versus Mr. Negative. I've done variations on this fight several times recently, and each time I have eaten a special one. So I really don't want to eat a special one this time. You know, I've put in my practice. I really have the evade down. I just need to not be caught off guard by it. Not really going to worry about a heavy here because that's probably going to require me to parry. I am going to keep my eye open for the heavies. I do think I can counter it, but that's honestly okay. Because when we trigger the disorient like that, it's going to give us extra power. That's one reason that Killmonger is good for strike counter if there are any debuffs involved. He heals from it. You don't really worry too much about the block damage because he also has a ton of armor, which helps mitigate block damage. And he's constantly gaining power whenever he activates that debuff, so he's able to stay pretty well on top of strike counter. And lo and behold, I was not ready for him to throw that special one. I don't know why. I really thought he was like, he's going to hold on to it. I'll push him to his special too. This will be great. Yeah, he caught me. At the same time, Killmonger finished above 90% health, so I'll get over it and I'll keep practicing. So then we do a fight I haven't been able to do in quite a while. This is Killmonger against Mr. Fantastic. This is an interesting placement. My assumption is that they put him here on the theory that the Hard Knock Life that was added to this node since last season would make it harder to use somebody like Archangel, maybe even Nick, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, I guess it does make it slightly harder for Nick to knock him down. But ultimately, I don't think this is great placement, because if your opponent has even a single Killmonger on the entire map, it's easy to get him here. And this is just cake for Killmonger. I am going to lose the debuff Siphoner, because I'm just not going to get to a special one that quickly. But we are constantly going to have debuffs up. Those debuffs, every time they activate, are going to give us power, so we are always going to have as much power as we want, as many indestructible charges, as many counterpunch charges as we want. We're going to be healing from it because of willpower, so even when we take brute force damage, we're not going to have to worry about it because we're just going to regen it right back. We have class advantage, so Reed's not going to be able to hit that hard. We have crit resistance, so if something does slip through, it's not going to be that much. And then again, we'll just regen it if somehow it slips through the indestructible charges that we always have access to, without sacrificing counterpunch because he's applying so many debuffs. I mean, this is just one of the single easiest fights on the entire map. It is a little bit slow, especially if you have a day like I did today, and your Killmonger just refuses to crit for the whole fight. Okay, yeah, I said something that time. We got a couple small ones while Reverb was down. Whatever. But it's absurdly, absurdly safe. You're just doing your damage on basics because he's mitigating your specials. It really does not matter. We're still going to get this down inside of 2 minutes, I think. And there was never even the slightest danger. So there are some good placements here to take advantage of Hard Knock life going forward. I do not think Reed is one of them. Not as long as Killmonger exists, anyway. So we do take some brute force there at the end. Don't fully heal it back up before we finish the fight, but just over 2 minutes, end at 99%. That's as good as it gets. Speaking of as good as it gets, really happy to say that BG3 managed to finish this one with a donut. No deaths anywhere. So I am really, really glad that I didn't mess up that Miles fight worse. It happens, you know, whenever you have a 164, somebody had to be the one who died, but I'm glad this time it wasn't me. Yeah, just really happy with how everyone's doing. Normally we have a pretty rough first war back. To follow the no-death war that we had at the end of Season 31 with another no-death war at the start of Season 32 just really makes me feel good about where we're going. I feel like the BG practiced appropriately in the off-season, didn't get too thrown off by unstoppable armor. You know, I'm sure it won't be perfect all season, things happen, but I'm feeling good about this one. And the Alliance overall died 8 times, which is a little bit higher than we want, especially because, you know, that means 4 each for the other 2 battle groups. That's higher than our goal. But again, we have something of a history of completely imploding on the first war of the season, so I am just thrilled to finish in single digits. Gonna head into the next one and hope that we can just continue our usual forward momentum. Feeling good about this one. So let me know in the comments, how was y'all's first experience with Unstoppable Armor in season? Or those of you in lower tiers, how are you handling the new global? I think below tier 2, you now have high ground where you didn't have it for a bit. Let me know your experience in the comments, and I will catch y'all next time. Until then, thanks for watching, and take care.